Hi, 4th and 5th grade friends. I am here with another book for First Chapter Friday. You will actually find the book and other books in this series in our biography section in the library. So it's not in the fiction section, it's all the way in the back of the library in the biographies. These are on the very bottom shelf at the end in the 920s because they are about multiple people. So with me, I have kid authors, kid presidents, kid scientists, kid athletes, and kid artists. These are all true tales from the childhood of different famous people. So today I thought I would read to you one out of Kid Presidents, just to give you an idea of some of the people in some of the other ones in the author book. There's Stan Lee, J.K. Rowling, Roald Dahl, who writes Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. In the scientist book, there's Albert Einstein, Sally Ride, Nicholas Tesla. In the kid athletes, there's Tiger Woods, Gabby Douglas, Messi, Jackie Robinson. And then in the artists, there's Frida Kahlo, Charles Schultz, the man that does Peanuts, Andy Warhol. And then in the presidents, there's lots. Lincoln, Washington, Obama, Clinton, Roosevelt, Reagan. So today in the Kid President book, we are actually going to start with the very first one. This is part 1, After School Activities, Horses, Biology, Theater, and Music. The Kid Presidents discovered all kinds of interesting and unusual hobbies. Ulysses S. Grant, the Horseback Kid. Born 1822. He was the brave general who led the North to victory in the Civil War. In 1868, Ulysses S. Grant rode the fame he earned on the battlefield all the way to the White House. He may have been the gruffest, toughest president America ever had. You'd be tough too if you learned everything you know on the back of a galloping horse. When Ulysses was a boy, a traveling circus passed through his hometown of Georgetown. Back in the 1820s, before television, before movies, before radio, the arrival of a circus was a major event, especially in a rural village like Georgetown. The big top promised amazing acrobats, wacky clowns, death-defying trapeze artists, and all kinds of exotic animals. So naturally, young Ulysses, as he preferred to be called, rushed to watch the show. When he arrived, the audience was admiring a beautiful but strong-willed pony in the center of the ring. The ringmaster stepped out to greet the audience and issued his challenge. Will anybody come forth to ride this pony? I bet you know who will. Ulysses raised his hand to volunteer, but a much bigger boy elbowed his way to the front of the line. The pony quickly threw the boy off, leaving him sprawled face down on the sawdust floor. So the ringmaster repeated his challenge. Will any boy come forth to ride this pony? Once more little Ulysses volunteered. This time he was chosen, and a sea of hands lifted him onto the back of the miniature horse, just as it had with the older boy. The pony did everything it could to shake off its rider. It reared up on its hind legs, pawing at the sky, but Ulysses seized a hold of its mane, dug his heels into its flanks, and hung on. So I really like that they kind of mix in a little bit of graphic novel style with these books. At last the pony calmed down and allowed Ulysses to guide it around the ring. The crowd roared with delight. When he had completed his circuit, Ulysses was hoisted aloft like a conquering hero, wearing a joyous smile on his face. From that day on, Ulysses S. Grant couldn't get enough of horses, riding them, caring for them, training them. By the time he was 5, he could ride standing up on the back of a trotting horse, holding on to the reins to keep his balance. By the age of 7, he had found a job hauling wood in a horse-drawn wagon. A neighbor expressed concern that little Ulysses could be trampled or kicked in the head if he wasn't careful. 7 seems young to own a lumber business. But Ulysses' mother told her not to worry. Horses seemed to understand Ulysses, she bragged. More than anything, he wanted a horse of his own. When he was 8 years old, he finally found one to his liking. A farmer named Ralston was selling one of his colts, and Ulysses had saved up enough money from hauling wood to offer him $25. But Ulysses' father did not think the horse was worth that much. He instructed his son to offer 20. Then, if Ralston rejected the offer, he should try 22.50. Only if Ralston held out for more was Ulysses to offer the full 25. Ulysses raced over to Ralston's farm, eager to put his father's cunning plan into action. The cagey farmer grinned down at him. "So, boy, how much did your father tell you to pay?" he asked. "Papa says I may offer you $20, but I can go as high as 25. Ralston drew himself up, puffed out his chest. "I cannot accept a penny less than 25, he declared. "Sold!" And though Ulysses got his colt, he learned a painful lesson in horse trading. Never let the other guy know how much you're willing to pony up. When Ulysses' friends heard the story of his transaction with Ralston, they began making fun of him and taunted him with the nickname Useless. Surely he was an imbecile for blurting out his best offer. Surely he would never amount to anything if he couldn't even manage a simple horse trade. Maybe he really was Useless Grant, after all. But Ulysses just ignored their name-calling. He kept the horse he bought from Ralston for 4 years, practicing day and night until he had mastered every aspect of riding and training. In that time, his reputation among the townsfolk grew by leaps and bounds. By the age of 9, he was being hired by farmers to break their unruly colts by riding them until they were tamed. When horses got sick with distemper, Ulysses was asked to care for them. He drew crowds by riding bareback through the center of town and performing acrobatic feats at a full gallop. Each time the circus returned to town, the ringmaster would offer a prize for the most audacious display of trick horsemanship. Again and again, Ulysses always won. One time the ringmaster even tossed a monkey onto the boy's shoulders during one of his bareback rides. The monkey panicked, grabbing Ulysses by the hair and shrieking in terror. For a moment it looked as if Ulysses might lose control of his mount, but he kept the horse under control until they finished their ride. So it seemed that Ulysses was not useless after all. In fact, many people in Georgetown began hiring him to drive them by horse and carriage to Cincinnati and Louisville, some cities that were more than 60 miles away. Ulysses' love of horses gave him a chance to see the wider world beyond his own town. As he gained experience with horses, he became savvier with people as well. The next time he swapped horses with someone, he made sure to drive a hard bargain. He even managed to get the man to kick in $10 cash to seal the deal. When the colt in question got spooked by a barking dog on the ride home, nearly galloping over a 20-foot cliff, Ulysses knew just how to calm him. He removed a bandana from his pocket, gently blindfolded the animal, and eased him away from the edge of danger. "Is the dog still there?" "No, we're cool." Ulysses S. Grant never lost his special bond with horses. When he was 17 years old, he enrolled in the United States Military Academy at West Point. While there, he set a school high jump record that stood for 25 years. It was as good as a circus to see Grant ride, one of his fellow cadets recalled. As a grown-up, Grant served in the Union Army during the American Civil War and eventually rose to the rank of general. Despite the bloody and violent war raging around him, Grant would tolerate no cruelty towards animals. Once, he witnessed a man beating a horse, and he ordered the man tied to a tree for 6 hours as punishment for his brutality. "Sorry I hit you. Apology accepted." Ulysses S. Grant became the President of the United States in 1869. He made a priority of expanding the White House stables. During his 8 years in office, he sheltered more horses than any other U.S. president. Because he never liked being driven around by chauffeurs, Grant often saddled one of his horses for a solo ride through the streets of Washington, D.C. One day, as he galloped his way down M Street, a police officer pulled him over for speeding. When the officer discovered that the lawbreaker was the leader of the country, he was embarrassed. But Grant wasn't the least bit upset. "I was speeding. You caught me," he said. So the police officer issued him a $5 ticket, and America's 18th president walked back to the White House on foot. "Is that the president?" "Officer, do your duty." The next chapter is about Theodore Roosevelt, and there's lots more presidents in here. So again, we've got kid artists, kid presidents, kid athletes, kid scientists, and kid authors. They can all be found on the bottom shelf in the biography section. I hope you all have a happy First Chapter Friday. Bye, friends.